Hello and welcome to AirgunWeb.com, your home for honest, real-world airgun reviews and information where we bring you the facts, not fluff. If you love shooting and you're at all like me, you hate having to drive to the range or out into the country to get some trigger time. Now I've shot some quiet airguns, but they can still draw unwanted attention from my neighbors. What we need is a truly quiet airgun that's economical, easy to shoot, and very accurate. Well, Umarex USA must have been spying on my thoughts because that's exactly what they've created with their new Umarex Fusion. This CO2-powered airgun is not only accurate, but may be the quietest airgun that I've ever tested. So let's go ahead and get started. The Fusion has been on Umarex's drawing board for a while now. Seems they really wanted to get it right rather than just rushing a product to market. Well, their patience has really paid off with the Fusion. The Fusion is a CO2 bolt-action airgun that's powered by two 12-gram CO2 cartridges. The action is housed in a lightweight synthetic stock that's a little small for my build, but still works pretty good. There are no open sights on the Fusion, so you're going to have to use some sort of optic. Umarex bundles a 4x32 scope to get you started, but take my advice and upgrade to something better so that you can get the most out of the rifle from day one. For this review, I've mounted a Hawk Sport HD 3-9x40 AO scope with mil-dot reticle. It's reasonably priced and works great for the type of shooting I'll be doing with the Fusion. As I mentioned earlier, the Fusion is a bolt-action air rifle. You'll need to open the bolt and load the pellet each time to fire. The loading port is accessible from the right and left side of the airgun. This makes it easy to load pellets with either hand. At the front of the rifle, you'll find the new Umarex Silence Air airgun suppressor. This effectively kills all the shot noise from this airgun. It's so quiet that when I started testing, I thought Umarex had sent me a defective gun. A couple of shots over the crony showed it was not at all defective, it's just super quiet. The trigger on the Fusion is a non-adjustable two-stage trigger. It will take a little time for the trigger components to break in. I've got about 600 plus shots through my Fusion thus far, and it's getting better the more I shoot it. It has a very light first stage with a second stage having some creep and breaking at about 3 pounds. Lastly, the safety is located on the right hand side of the trigger assembly. This is set automatically when you cock the bolt. If there was ever an airgun that required you to read the manual, it's going to be the Umarex Fusion. Do not skip this very important step. Getting the Fusion ready to shoot is a bit of an operation, and here's how it all works. The first thing you're going to need is a couple of 12-gram CO2 cartridges and some RWS chamber lube. You're going to need this to always lubricate the tips of your cartridges to help keep your gun working properly. So let's go ahead and get started. What we need to do is take this valve off. Before we start, let's make sure our gun is empty. To do this, remove the first cap, which is reverse threaded. That's very important to know. If you try and unscrew it the traditional way, you're just going to be tightening it. So it's reverse threaded, remember that. Inside here, you've got a relief valve. I'm going to screw this in. Okay, we don't hear any CO2, so we know the gun is empty. So now I can unscrew that. One little point of note, if you do release a bunch of CO2 out of your gun, or release really any CO2 out of your gun, make sure that you let the rifle sit for at least 5 minutes before trying to take this valve out. If you don't, you could damage the delicate O-ring on the valve. Okay, so we're completely empty. We can go ahead and take this out. All right, the valve slides out easily. Okay, and I will tip out the used CO2, and we'll go ahead and add our new CO2 cartridges. So we're going to put a drop on each cartridge. The first cartridge goes in top first. The second cartridge goes in backwards. Now we're going to go ahead and get our valve ready. Do this. I'll put a little oil on that O-ring. make sure that the relief valve is all the way loose and carefully insert the valve. Now, we'll take our exterior nut and begin to screw this on. Make sure, again, your relief valve is all the way out. When you tighten this, it's going to pierce both CO2 cartridges. And that is that. It is done. Now you can go ahead and bring your relief valve to the point where you're not letting any CO2 out, but it's not flopping around either. If you screw this in and you hear CO2 escaping, go ahead and release this valve a little bit more. It may not be out all the way. All right, with that done, we can go ahead and replace our end cap. Again, remembering that it is reverse threaded. And we're all done. Now, the more you do that, the more second nature it'll become, and it will not be that big of a deal. Now that we've got the CO2 all loaded up, we can go ahead and fire our rifle. To do this, we're going to pull back on the bolt, load a pellet, close the bolt, aim our rifle at our intended target, release the safety, and gently squeeze the trigger. Let's do that again. Pull back on the bolt, replace or put in our pellet, close the bolt, aim it at our intended target, release the safety, pull the trigger. One more time just for fun. And that's all there is to it. Just wanted to mention again that while that may seem like somewhat of a process to get the gun ready to fire, it's really not that big of a deal. In fact, the more you do it, it just becomes second nature. Just follow the precautions that we outlined and you'll be fine. Now, expect to get about 50 good shots per set of CO2 cartridges. And about the only challenge you're going to have to see repeatable accuracy is going to be your trigger control. If you learn to be consistent, you're going to put it in the 10 ring time and time again. Let's go ahead and talk about performance and accuracy. The Fusion is rated for up to 750 feet per second, and I was able to achieve that mark easily with the H&N Field Target Trophy green pellets, which are a decent lead-free option. The most accurate pellet in my tests was the H&N Field Target Trophy. They weigh 8.4 grains and average 660 feet per second, generating 8.13 foot-pounds at the muzzle. That's a little light for small game hunting and pest control, but the Fusion wasn't designed for that. It was designed for stealth and accuracy, and there it really shines. Let's look at stealth. The Fusion generated a mere 94 dB in my indoor tests, and an even lower 80 dB when shooting outdoors. When used with a silent pellet trap, this is the perfect air gun for outdoor, neighborhood-friendly target practice. As for accuracy, here are some shot groups for you to look at. The first two groups were shot at 10 yards and measure only 0.232 inches center to center and 0.211 inches center to center respectively. The next groups were shot at 20 yards and measure 0.491 inches center to center and 0.345 inches center to center respectively. Let's take a look at these groups. So here's our final summary. As far as I'm aware of, there aren't any other bolt-action CO2-powered airguns on the market today that can compete with the Umarex Fusion on price, accuracy, and stealth. With that silence air suppressor, it provides the perfect icing on the cake for this really quiet airgun. Now, there is always a little room for improvement, however. I'd love to see the cocking action and the trigger pull more refined and smoother out of the box. The good thing is that they do get better with use. The only other recommendation I would make would be to bundle a better scope with the Fusion. Ideally, I'd love to see something with an adjustable objective, allowing you to make the most of the rifle's 10 to 20 yard optimal range. When you take all the pros and cons into consideration, and then you look at the price point of well under $200, it's really hard not to get excited about the Umarex Fusion. The minor issues are easily handled with either more trigger time or better optics. The important performance points, such as ease of shooting and repeatable accuracy, are all there right from the beginning. The Fusion is a true joy to shoot and perhaps the most backyard-friendly airgun that I've ever had the opportunity to test. I'd really like to take a moment and thank the folks at Umarex USA for providing a review product today. When you're looking for honest, real-world airgun reviews, think AirgunWeb, where we tell you the facts, not fluff. I'm Rick User with AirgunWeb.com. Thanks again for watching.